High-voltage fire. The stadium lights glowed softly against the night sky. Fans had long left, but two figures remained on the pitch. Lionel Messi stood near the center circle, his hands resting on his knees. Cristiano Ronaldo walked slowly toward him, his boots crunching against the damp grass. The noise of the crowd had vanished, replaced only by the quiet hum of distant generators. Messi looked up, his eyes tired yet sharp. Ronaldo stopped a few steps away, his breath visible in the cool night air. For years, people believed they were enemies. The media painted them as rivals who shared nothing but competition. Yet here they were, alone, with no cameras, no interviews, and no crowd to impress. Ronaldo spoke first, his voice low but steady. "Do you ever wonder what all of this really means?" Messi frowned, unsure if he had heard correctly. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice cautious. Ronaldo looked at the empty stands, his expression unreadable. "All the goals, the trophies, the records. They cheer for us today, but tomorrow they will move on." Messi's chest tightened as he listened. He had always believed Ronaldo thrived only on glory, but in this moment he saw something different. A man who carried the same weight he did, the weight of expectation, the weight of living not as a person, but as a symbol. Messi lowered his gaze to the grass, the smell of wet earth rising with the night air. He whispered, "I play because football is my life. It is how I breathe, but sometimes I wonder if I lost something along the way." Ronaldo closed his eyes for a moment, as if holding back a thought he had never shared before. The silence stretched, heavy and unbroken. Then Ronaldo said, "The truth is, we are not rivals. We are mirrors. What the world sees as a battle is only a reflection of their own need for conflict." Messi felt his heart pound, his mind racing with the weight of those words. The grass swayed gently under the floodlights, as if the field itself was listening. At that moment, Messi understood there was something larger than victories or defeats. But before he could respond, Ronaldo's gaze shifted, and his expression changed. Messi followed his eyes, and what he saw made him freeze in place. Messi turned his head slowly, his eyes following Ronaldo's. The shadows at the far end of the pitch stretched long beneath the dim floodlights. At first, Messi thought he saw nothing. But then a figure emerged, moving carefully along the edge of the grass. It was not a fan. It was not a reporter. It was an older man, dressed in simple clothes, his steps slow but steady. His face was lined with age, and yet his posture carried a strength that demanded attention. Messi felt a shiver run down his spine. Ronaldo did not move, but his expression softened. The man stopped a few meters away and looked at them both. His eyes were sharp, as if they could pierce through every layer of fame, pride, and fear. Messi spoke first, his voice uncertain. "Who is this?" Ronaldo did not answer immediately. He kept his gaze fixed on the old man, then finally whispered, "Someone who knew us long before the world did." The man's lips curved into a faint smile, and he said, "The world cheers for you because of what you do. But I have come to remind you of who you are." The words cut through the night air like a blade. Messi felt the weight of them press against his chest. Ronaldo stood taller, though his jaw tightened as if bracing for something he could not control. The man continued, his voice calm yet powerful. "You both have given your lives to this game. You have run until your legs burned, sacrificed until your bodies ached, and carried burdens no one else could carry. But you must ask yourselves, was it for yourself or was it for them?" Messi closed his eyes, and images flooded his mind. The roar of crowds, the countless hours of training, the trophies lifted high under blinding lights, and the silent moments at home when his children asked him why he was away again. He felt a pang of guilt twist in his chest. Ronaldo's eyes flickered with something Messi had rarely seen in him, uncertainty. For all his confidence on the pitch, in this moment he looked like a man stripped of armor. The old man stepped closer, his footsteps echoing across the empty stadium. "The truth the world does not know," he said, "is that the two of you are not fighting each other. You are fighting the same enemy." Messi lifted his head, confusion clouding his thoughts. "What enemy?" he asked softly. The man raised his hand and pointed to the seats, row after row of emptiness. "The enemy is never each other. The enemy is the hunger of the world that will never be satisfied. They will always demand more. More goals, more records, more perfection. And when you cannot give it, they will turn to the next. The words sank deep into Messi's heart. He remembered nights when he scored twice, and yet headlines read about what he failed to do. He remembered matches where victory was not enough because it was not spectacular. Ronaldo clenched his fists, the veins in his arms tight beneath the skin. For the first time, he spoke with raw honesty. All my life, I thought I needed to prove I was the best. That if I kept running, if I kept scoring, if I kept shining brighter, I could silence the voices. But the truth is, they never stop. Messi looked at him, his own voice trembling. I know. Even when I win, I feel like I lose something. As if the world is not cheering for me, but for what I give them. And when I stop, so will they. The old man's gaze softened, and he said, and that is the truth that nobody was ready for. That your greatest rival is not each other. It is the illusion that your worth depends only on what you do, not on who you are. Messi felt his throat tighten. For years, he had carried the weight of silence, never admitting that doubt lived inside him. Ronaldo looked at the ground, the shadow of his figure long and dark beneath the light. Messi turned his eyes toward the stars above, scattered like diamonds against the black sky. He realized how small a pitch looked compared to the endless night, and he wondered if he had been chasing something he could never truly hold. The old man took another step closer until he stood between them. Do you see now? He asked quietly. Messi whispered, yes. But if this is true, then what should we do? The man smiled, but his smile carried a sadness that felt older than time. That is the question every man must face. To keep running after the applause, or to discover the meaning beyond it. Messi's heart pounded, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. Ronaldo looked at Messi for a long moment, and for the first time in their lives, no competition existed in his eyes. Only understanding. The old man began to turn away, his figure fading back toward the shadows. Messi took a step forward. Wait, he called out. Do not leave yet. Tell us, what happens if we choose wrong? The man's footsteps slowed, but he did not look back. His voice floated across the grass, steady and haunting. If you choose wrong, you will win everything and still lose yourself. The silence that followed was heavier than any stadium roar they had ever heard. Messi's skin prickled, as if the air itself had grown colder. Ronaldo exhaled, his breath sharp, as though he had been holding it for years. Messi's thoughts spun, memories clashing with questions, questions clashing with fears. And yet, somewhere in the midst of it all, a new understanding began to take root. The field around them felt less like a stadium and more like a mirror, reflecting their lives back at them. The man had disappeared into the shadows, leaving only the two of them beneath the pale glow of the floodlights. Messi turned to Ronaldo, his voice almost a whisper. Maybe we are not here to prove who is better. Maybe we are here to prove something else. Ronaldo's jaw tightened, but his eyes burned with an intensity that was no longer about rivalry. What is it you think we are here to prove? He asked. Messi looked back at the empty stands, then down at the grass beneath his feet. His lips parted, ready to speak the truth forming in his heart. But before the words could escape, a sudden sound broke the silence. The heavy creak of the stadium gates. Messi froze, his pulse quickening. Ronaldo's head snapped toward the sound, his body tense like a predator sensing danger. The gates opened slowly, their metallic groan echoing through the night. And in that moment, both men realized they were no longer alone. The iron gates creaked louder, their sound slicing through the quiet night. Messi's breath quickened, each inhale sharp and unsteady. Ronaldo's muscles stiffened, his stance ready for whatever would come. From the darkness beyond the gate, footsteps echoed. Slow, steady, purposeful. Messi squinted, trying to make out the figure. At first, only a shadow appeared, stretching long across the stadium floor. Then a tall man stepped into the dim light. He wore a dark coat, his collar turned up, hiding much of his face. But the way he carried himself was deliberate, almost theatrical. Ronaldo narrowed his eyes. Who are you? His voice cut through the silence. The man paused, then lowered his hood. His face revealed sharp features, lined by years of struggle and resolve. He looked directly at Messi, then at Ronaldo, and finally at the empty pitch between them. I am someone who knows the truth the world is not ready for, he said. His voice was calm, but it carried a weight that made both Messi and Ronaldo stand still. Messi swallowed hard. The words of the old man who had vanished only minutes ago echoed in his mind. The truth nobody was ready for. And now, here was someone claiming to hold it. Ronaldo's jaw clenched, his voice steady but demanding. "Speak. We have heard enough riddles tonight." The man stepped closer, his shoes clicking against the concrete. "You think you know rivalry," he said. "You think your story is about trophies, goals, and headlines. But you are wrong." Messi's heartbeat pounded in his ears. The stranger continued, his gaze unflinching. "The rivalry was never yours. It was theirs." Messi frowned. "Theirs? Who do you mean?" The man gestured to the empty stands, the silent seats that had held millions of voices over the years. "The fans. The media. The world. They wrote your rivalry long before you lived it. They fed on it. They made you fight battles you never chose." Ronaldo's eyes narrowed, his thoughts racing. All the years of comparison. All the headlines pitting them against one another. All the endless debates that made strangers in cafes and children in playgrounds choose sides. The stranger's voice grew stronger. "You were puppets in their story. Every goal, every failure, every celebration, they turned it into a war. And you carried it, believing it was real." Messi felt his throat tighten. He remembered moments of quiet respect for Ronaldo, moments never shown to the public because they did not fit the narrative. He remembered how, in private, he admired Ronaldo's discipline, his relentlessness, and how strange it felt to admire someone the world told him he must despise. Ronaldo's chest rose and fell, his breathing heavier now. He thought of the times he watched Messi play, secretly studying his genius, unwilling to admit that it inspired him. The stranger's eyes locked on theirs. "The hidden truth is this. You were never enemies. You were never rivals. You were two men carrying the same fire, trapped in a story written by others." Silence crashed over the pitch, heavy and suffocating. Messi looked at Ronaldo, and for the first time, no mask of rivalry remained. Only the quiet recognition of what they both knew, but had never spoken aloud. The stranger stepped closer, his voice lowering. "And now you must decide. Will you keep playing the part they gave you? Or will you take back the story that was stolen from you?" Messi's hands trembled slightly at his sides. He felt as if the ground beneath him had shifted. All the years, all the sacrifices, all the endless comparisons, had it all been for nothing? Ronaldo's eyes burned with intensity, not of competition, but of something deeper. A hunger to know the answer. Messi whispered, "What happens if we do not take it back?" The stranger's lips curved into a grim smile. "Then history will remember you not as men, but as myths. And myths cannot breathe. Myths cannot live. They only serve those who tell them." The words struck Messi like thunder. The faces of his family flashed in his mind. His children, his wife, the people who knew him as more than a footballer. Ronaldo thought of his son, of the legacy he wanted to leave behind. Not one built on comparisons, but on truth. The stranger raised his hand, pointing once more at the empty seats. "Do you hear it? The silence. This is the only time the truth can be spoken. Because tomorrow, when the seats are filled again, the story will continue without you." Messi felt sweat bead along his forehead despite the cool night air. Ronaldo stepped forward, his voice firm. "Then tell us. Tell us everything. What is the truth we have not yet seen?" The man's eyes darkened, his voice dropping lower. "The truth is buried in what you fear most. Look not at each other, but within yourselves. That is where the chains are. Break them, and you will see." Messi's chest tightened as his thoughts spiraled. The chains. What were they? The fear of failure? The endless demand to perform? The weight of carrying an entire world's expectations? Ronaldo clenched his fists, his knuckles white. The fire in him raged, but he knew this was no battle of strength. It was something else. Something he could not fight with speed or power. Messi's eyes dropped to the grass, the smell of damp earth filling his senses. And then, in the silence, he realized something. Perhaps the chains were not only what the world demanded. Perhaps they were the lies he had told himself. That he was never enough. That his worth was tied to his last goal, his last trophy, his last victory. His lips parted as if to speak, but before he could, the stranger suddenly stopped. He tilted his head, his expression changing. Messi followed his gaze, and saw movement high above in the stands. A flicker of light, the glow of a camera. Someone was watching. Ronaldo's body tensed instantly. "Who is there?" he shouted into the darkness. The figure above did not answer, but the light of the camera lens reflected back. The moment of truth was no longer theirs alone. Someone had seen. Someone had recorded. And if that recording left the stadium, the hidden truth would no longer be hidden. Messi's pulse raced, his mind torn between fear and hope. Ronaldo's eyes blazed as he turned to Messi. "This changes everything." The stranger stepped back into the shadows, his final words sharp and urgent. "Now you must decide. Reveal the truth, or bury it forever." The camera light blinked once more in the darkness above, and then silence. Messi and Ronaldo stood frozen, the weight of the decision pressing down on them. For the first time, the rivalry was not between them. It was against the choice that could change everything. Messi's lips moved, ready to answer. But before the words could leave his mouth, the floodlights flickered, and the stadium went dark. The floodlights died with a sharp buzz, plunging the stadium into darkness. Messi's heart pounded in his chest, each beat louder than the silence around him. Ronaldo's breath came heavy, his eyes straining to adjust to the sudden blackness. Only the faint glow of the city beyond the walls gave the arena its outline. Messi turned his head quickly. The camera light in the stands was gone. Whoever had been watching had vanished into the shadows. The stranger's voice echoed, though his figure could no longer be seen. "You see now, the truth is fragile. One glimpse, and it can shatter everything." Messi swallowed hard, the taste of iron on his tongue. Ronaldo's jaw clenched as he called out, "Show yourself! Do not disappear now!" No answer. Only the wind, moving through the hollow seats like a whisper of forgotten cheers. Messi's thoughts raced. Was this a warning? Or a test? He remembered the old man's words, about myths, about chains, about losing oneself. And now this new figure had left them in darkness, both literally and within their souls. Ronaldo stepped forward, his boots grinding against the turf. "Messi," he said, his voice low but urgent. "If the world sees this, they will twist it. They always do." Messi looked at him, his face faintly illuminated by the pale glow of the moon above. "And if we hide it, then we are no different than before. We keep living their story, not ours." Ronaldo's eyes burned, the conflict tearing at him. He had lived his entire life proving himself against shadows. But this was different. This was not about goals or records. It was about truth. A truth that could break or heal, depending on how it was told. Messi's voice shook as he whispered, "What if revealing it destroys everything?" Ronaldo did not hesitate. "What if burying it destroys us?" The words hung in the air, heavy, final, undeniable. Messi felt his chest tighten. The chains, the expectations, the myth that had swallowed their humanity. Perhaps this was the moment to break it. But the darkness around them felt alive, as if the stadium itself wanted to keep the secret buried. The sound of a door creaking open broke the silence. Both men turned sharply toward the tunnel. From its shadows, another figure emerged. This one moved slowly, carefully, as though he carried something heavy in his hands. The dim moonlight caught a glint of metal. A small recorder. Messi's eyes widened. The man stepped closer, his face hidden beneath a hood, but his hands trembling slightly as he held the device. "I heard everything," he said. His voice was young, shaky, uncertain. Messi and Ronaldo exchanged a glance. A fan. Not a journalist. Not a spy. Just a boy. No older than 16, his shoulders narrow beneath the oversized coat he wore. His eyes darted between them, wide with awe and fear. "I never meant to. I only wanted to see the stadium. I did not know I would find you here." The recorder shook in his hands. "But now, I have your truth." Ronaldo's steps were firm as he closed the distance. The boy flinched but did not run. Messi's heart ached as he looked at him. He saw innocence, but also the dangerous power of a single choice. Ronaldo's voice cut through the air. "Give it to me." The boy's grip tightened. "If I do, the world will never know. But if I release it, maybe they will finally see who you are." Messi stepped forward, his voice soft but urgent. "And what if they are not ready? What if they twist it, like they always have?" The boy's lip trembled, his eyes filling with conflict. "I grew up with both of you," he whispered. My friends fought over who was better. My father called one a genius. My uncle called the other a machine. It was always war. But tonight, I saw something different. I saw men. Messi felt his throat tighten. Ronaldo's chest rose and fell, the tension in him sharper than any final he had ever played. The boy lifted the recorder slightly. I can change everything, but I do not know if it will save you or destroy you. Messi closed his eyes, flashes of his life surging through him. The goals, the victories, the quiet moments when none of it mattered except family, and the truth he had hidden even from himself. He opened his eyes and looked at Ronaldo. In that moment, their gazes locked, unspoken understanding flowing between them. The decision was no longer about rivalry. It was about legacy, not the one written in numbers, but the one written in truth. Ronaldo stepped closer to the boy, his voice softer now. Listen to me. What you hold in your hand is heavier than any trophy, heavier than any medal. It is not about us anymore. It is about the story you choose to tell. The boy's eyes filled with tears. Messi added quietly, and sometimes the world is not ready for the truth. But one person is enough. If you carry it with wisdom. The recorder shook in the boy's hands, the weight of it pulling him down as though it was made of stone. He looked at them, his voice cracking. Then tell me, should I keep it or release it? The question echoed across the empty stands, a question larger than the game, larger than fame. Messi's lips parted, but no words came. Ronaldo's eyes narrowed, his face caught between defiance and surrender. The boy waited, his breath shallow, the recorder trembling in the pale glow of the moon. And then, a loud crash echoed from the tunnel behind him. The boy spun around, his grip loosening. The recorder slipped, tumbling from his hands. It hit the ground with a sharp crack. Messi's pulse thundered in his ears. Ronaldo's body tensed, ready to move. From the tunnel, heavy footsteps approached. Not one, not two, many. The sound grew louder, filling the air with dread. Messi's eyes darted to Ronaldo's, and he saw the same thought reflected back. Who else knew? And what did they want with the truth? The boy froze, his face pale, his voice trembling. They are coming. The recorder lay broken on the ground, its red light still flickering weakly. Messi bent down, his hand hovering above it. But before he could touch it, the shadows at the tunnel's mouth grew darker. Figures emerged, faceless in the dim light, moving with purpose. Messi's breath caught. Ronaldo's fists clenched. The boy stepped back in fear. The hidden truth was no longer theirs alone. And as the figures advanced, Messi realized something with chilling clarity. The real battle was only beginning. The figures advanced slowly from the tunnel. Their footsteps echoed, heavy and deliberate, like drums in the night. Messi's hand hovered over the recorder, his fingers trembling. Ronaldo took a step forward, his stance strong, ready to confront. The boy backed away, his eyes wide, fear written across his face. Moonlight spilled across the pitch, casting long shadows. Messi counted 6. 6 dark silhouettes moving toward them, faceless and silent. He felt the weight of the moment pressing against his chest. This was no ordinary intrusion. These men were here for something. And Messi already knew what it was. Ronaldo's voice cut through the stillness. Who are you? No reply. The figures stopped a few meters away, forming a line like a wall of darkness. Then one of them stepped forward. His face was partially hidden beneath a hood, but his voice was clear. You were warned. The truth is not yours to reveal. Messi's stomach sank. The words were almost identical to what the old man had said. The boy clutched his coat tighter, his voice breaking. But why? Why hide it? People deserve to know. The hooded man turned his head toward the boy. His tone grew sharper. Truth is dangerous in the wrong hands. It is not meant for the world. Not yet. Messi straightened, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. So we keep living a lie. The man's gaze shifted to him. A lie can protect. The truth can destroy. Ronaldo stepped forward, his eyes blazing. I have lived my whole life carrying expectations that were not mine. Do you mean to tell me that was protection? The man did not flinch. It was survival. Without the rivalry, without the myth, neither of you would be where you stand today. The world needs legends more than it needs men. The words sliced through the night. Messi's throat tightened. He remembered the stranger's warning. History will remember you not as men, but as myths. And here was the proof. They had been shaped, controlled, and preserved like symbols in a story written by others. Messi whispered, more to himself than anyone else. So everything was manufactured. Every comparison, every headline, every battle between us. The hooded man's silence was answer enough. The boy's face twisted with confusion and pain. All these years, we believed it was real. Ronaldo clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His voice shook with fury. I bled for this game. I gave everything. Do not tell me it was just a story. The man's tone grew colder. It was not just a story. It was the greatest story. And without it, football would never have reached the world the way it did. Messi's chest heaved, anger mixing with sorrow. He had always believed the rivalry was destiny. But now, it felt like chains forged by invisible hands. The boy bent down, lifting the broken recorder from the grass. Its red light flickered faintly, still alive. He held it up with trembling hands. This is proof. Proof of what you are saying. I can show them. I can show everyone. The hooded man stepped forward sharply. No, that recording cannot leave this place. Messi and Ronaldo exchanged a glance. A silent agreement passed between them. For once, they were not opponents. They were allies. Messi's voice cut through the tension. What are you afraid of? That the world will see us for who we truly are. The man's eyes narrowed. No, that the world will not accept who you truly are. The words struck deep. Messi's mind raced. Would people accept the truth? Or would they destroy it? Ronaldo's voice thundered, raw and unrestrained. Let them decide. Not you. Not the media. Not these shadows. If the truth is dangerous, then let it be dangerous. But it must be free. The silence that followed was heavy, unbroken. The hooded men shifted slightly as if ready to move. The boy looked at Messi, his small hands gripping the recorder like it was the most powerful weapon in the world. What should I do? He whispered. Messi's heart pounded. This was the question. The one he had been avoiding his entire life. Not who was better. Not who was greatest. But who he truly was when the lights went out. He closed his eyes, feeling the damp grass beneath his boots, smelling the faint trace of earth and sweat. When he opened them, his voice was quiet but firm. Truth is the only thing that can outlive us. If we silence it, then we were nothing more than actors on a stage. The boy nodded, his eyes glistening. But before he could move, the hooded men surged forward. Ronaldo stepped in front of the boy instantly, his presence like a wall. Not another step, he growled. The men halted, but the air was charged with the threat of violence. Messi moved beside Ronaldo, his eyes locked on the leader. We will not run from this anymore. The leader's voice lowered, filled with warning. You do not understand the cost. If you choose this path, you may lose everything you built. Ronaldo's reply was sharp, unwavering. Then maybe it was never ours to begin with. The words echoed through the empty stadium, carried by the cold night air. Messi felt a strange calm settle in his chest. For the first time, he was not afraid of what came next. The boy raised the recorder, its light flickering brighter as if holding on to life. The hooded men tensed, their bodies shifting, preparing to strike. Messi's pulse hammered. Ronaldo's breath steadied. The boy whispered, "This is it." And then, a sudden roar of sound erupted from the stadium speakers. Static first, then a voice, the old man's voice. Do you hear me? Do not let them decide for you. The chains break only when you choose to break them. The hooded men froze, their heads snapping toward the sound. Messi's eyes widened, his heart leaping. The old man was still here. Somewhere, hidden in the shadows, guiding them. The boy tightened his grip on the recorder. Ronaldo's voice was a growl of determination. Messi, it is time. Messi nodded slowly, his eyes burning with clarity. The boy lifted the recorder higher, the red light glowing like a heartbeat. The hooded men took a step forward. Messi and Ronaldo stood their ground. The speakers crackled again. Once the truth is spoken, it cannot be taken back. Decide wisely. The air grew electric, thick with anticipation. Messi opened his mouth, ready to speak the words that had been buried for years. But before he could, a blinding white light exploded across the pitch, drowning everything in its glow. The boy screamed. The hooded men shielded their faces. Messi and Ronaldo staggered, their vision overwhelmed. And in that instant, the recorder slipped again, falling to the ground. Its red light blinked once, twice, then went out. Darkness returned. Silence fell, and the truth hung in the air, heavy, unspoken, waiting. When the blinding light faded, the stadium was quiet once more. The recorder lay on the ground, its light extinguished. The boy knelt beside it, his small hands shaking as he tried to revive it. But it was gone. The proof had vanished. Messi lowered his head, a heavy breath escaping his chest. Ronaldo stared at the broken device, his jaw tight, his body tense with frustration. The hooded men stood still, as if waiting for the final verdict. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Messi raised his eyes, his voice calm and steady. The recorder is broken, but the truth does not live in machines. It lives in us. Ronaldo's gaze shifted to him, his anger softening. Messi continued, his words clear and unshaken. We do not need a recording. We do not need proof. What matters is how we live from this moment forward. The boy looked up, confused, his face pale. But the world, they will never know. Messi placed a hand gently on the boy's shoulder. They will know, not through words, not through secrets, but through the way we play, the way we live, the way we choose to treat each other. Ronaldo stepped closer, his eyes burning with a new kind of fire. For years they told us we were enemies, but maybe the truth is that we were mirrors. I pushed him to be more. He pushed me to be more. Without him, I would not be who I am. Without me, he would not be who he is. Messi nodded, his eyes glistening in the faint light. That is the truth. Not rivalry, not hatred, but respect. And maybe even something more than that. The hooded men shifted uneasily, as if the ground beneath them had begun to crack. Their leader spoke, his voice trembling for the first time. If you speak this truth, the myth will end. The world will no longer see legends. They will see men. Ronaldo's reply was sharp, unwavering. Then let them see men. Because legends fade, but humanity endures. The words struck deep, echoing across the empty stands. Messi lifted his head, his voice steady. Football was never about numbers. It was never about crowns. It was about hope. About the boy in the street kicking a ball and dreaming of something greater. If we keep lying, we kill that hope. The boy's eyes filled with tears. He finally understood. The truth was not a secret to be exposed. It was a lesson to be lived. The hooded men fell silent, their power fading in the face of something greater than control. Slowly, one by one, they stepped back into the tunnel, swallowed by darkness. The boy clutched the broken recorder to his chest, no longer afraid. Messi turned to Ronaldo. Their eyes met, no rivalry, no chains, only a quiet understanding that went deeper than the game. Ronaldo's lips curved into the faintest smile. Maybe this is what they were never ready for. Messi returned the smile, his voice soft. The truth is simple. And sometimes, the simple things are the hardest to accept. The boy asked in a whisper, so what happens now? Messi looked at the pitch beneath his feet. The grass smelled of rain and earth. The silence of the stadium carried the weight of every cheer, every chant, every dream it had ever held. He lifted his eyes to the boy. Now we play. And we live, not as myths, not as enemies, but as men who gave everything and found each other in the process. Ronaldo placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, his voice strong. Remember this. Greatness is not in being better than someone else. Greatness is in bringing out the best in each other. The boy nodded slowly, his tears now mixed with a small, hopeful smile. Messi and Ronaldo turned toward the tunnel, walking side by side into the shadows. The boy stayed behind, holding the broken recorder, but his heart carried something far more powerful. Not proof, not evidence, but wisdom. He whispered to himself, words that would stay with him forever. They were not rivals. They were a story about pushing limits, about respect, about truth. And that story belongs to all of us. The stadium lights flickered back to life. The pitch glowed once more. But the true light was already burning, not in the machines, not in the cameras, but in the hearts of those who had witnessed. Messi, Ronaldo, and now, a boy who would never forget.